Hello and welcome. It's Catherine Colas here, and I've got another interview lined up for you today. And today it's with Gaynor Morgan of Pelvic Angel. Now, Gaynor has worked tirelessly for years. I can't tell you the number of awards she's won, just about taking into consideration women and their pelvic floors and how, on a clinical basis, things should be dealt with to help women when they've had a prolapse, perhaps, or they're leaking. So all sorts of things going on there. But let me tell you a bit about Gaynor's history. Gaynor's mother, Carol, and this is where it all started, Gaynor's mother, Carol, suffered for years with stress incontinence. And they could never find an adequate solution for the problem. So mother and daughter worked together. They've both got nursing experience to develop their first prototype medical product, and it was called Incostress. And I'll get Gaynor to talk a bit about that shortly. Following Carol's tragic death in 2004, Gaynor, as one would expect, really suffered badly at the death of her mother, but she continued the quest and focused on developing Incostress to help women who suffer with stress incontinence and pelvic organ prolapse. She's grown and raised so much awareness about incontinence, but then Brexit hit and COVID-19. And unfortunately, that forced Gaynor to close her limited company that she was operating under. But one door closes and another opens. And Gaynor created Pelvic Angel to focus on, one of the things you focus on is Pilates. Now that's Pilates with an F, and I'll get Gaynor to explain that to us, but it's having great results with incontinence, stress incontinence over 4 weeks. That's really brilliant news. And she's created focus groups for medical staff and patients and educating through presentations about the use of pessaries in the conservative management for incontinence and pelvic organ prolapse conditions. I have to say all that very carefully because you could get quite tongue-tied. And Gaynor, and then we went on to her awards. Gaynor is Vice President of the European Women's Innovator and Inventors Network. And her list of awards, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. 2019, a double platinum award, Global Women Inventors and Innovators Network. And then 2008, she had a lot more in between, but 2008 was a brilliant year with so many awards going on then. And of course, working on the product that she still had, the trials for the Incostress and getting it medically qualified, if you like, and insurance, and the costly world that goes on around medical products. So welcome, Gaynor. It's such a pleasure to have you on this show this morning. We've known each other, I say known, each other for years, but this is really the first face-to-face, if you can call it that, conversation that we've had, and it's such a pleasure to have you. So tell us a bit more about Incostress to start with, or let's talk about a bit what causes prolapse and incontinence. Perhaps we could start with that.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Catherine, for having me. It's an absolute honour to be here today speaking to you. And I've been a huge fan way back in 2008. I remember following you. So, yeah, it's you're amazing. So, yeah, stress incontinence. So that if we talk about stress incontinence and leave prolapse on the side for a moment, stress incontinence can happen to anybody, any female. You don't have to be a certain age. But as we do get older and the estrogen levels start to diminish in our bodies, then the lack of muscle texture and strength that goes with all of those things, that starts to diminish. Now, a lot of women, they don't do pelvic floor exercises, which we'll go into later. So what happens is that the sphincter muscle in the urethra. So the urethra is the little tube that lets urine out of the body. And the sphincter muscle is there, and it involuntarily contracts to keep the urine in the bladder. So when you jump or you cough or you sneeze or you pick up your grandchildren or your children, pick up your shopping, what happens is that you've got intra-abdominal pressure pushing down. So the bladder is pushed down and the urine then is forced through the urethra, and it's not watertight enough. So you get that involuntary loss of urine. So that's basically stress incontinence. Where a prolapse so with stress incontinence, there's clinical information that it affects about 1/3 of women. And there are certain operations that can correct this. They're not always successful, but there is about an 85% success rate with the TVT. There are then exercises, and people have this misconception that, oh, if I get operated on, that's it. But it's not. You still got to keep up the exercises. You've still got to strengthen and keep the core muscles strong. Otherwise, you're going to go back to what you were like before the surgery. So with pelvic organ prolapse, this is a descent of the organs that collapse then or herniate into the vaginal cavity. So that could be the urethra, it could be a bladder, the uterus, where that comes down, and it can be the bowel, and it can be higher up then, where it can be the small intestine. So it can be an accumulation of all of them, or it could just be one. And there are so many different reasons why this happens. It can be hereditary, it can be through certain activities, but that's another discussion.
But very painful, I should think.
Well, it depends. I mean, I had a rectocele for years and years, and so that's where the bowel actually collapses in. And that is usually caused through chronic constipation. So my diet was out of the window, and, you know, and again, a lot of people are given laxatives. So a lot of people do, without realizing it, abuse the laxatives because they want to keep themselves, you know, regular. But unless they tackle the root cause of any prolapse, then you can't really have an adequate treatment. It's like just putting a band-aid on it. So again, certain exercises can help reduce. And again, the prolapses come in different grades. So you can have a grade 1, which is you're probably not even symptomatic. And then you've got a grade 4 where everything is outside of the body. So, you know, pessaries are one thing that can help both with stress incontinence and with pelvic organ prolapse. And like with mum, where I developed the Incostress, that was there to basically put pressure on the urethra. So as she coughed, then she wasn't leaking any urine.
Yes.
So again, with the different shapes and sizes of pessaries, all these can help with the conservative management. Now, a pessary has to be measured properly. You can't just run out and get your own by a doctor or qualified person. And it is always advisable that that qualified person show you how to manage your pessary. So if it slips out or moves, then you know how to replace it properly. So it's a huge educational path that these ladies have to embrace. But they can save, well, they can give you quality of life back.
Yes. Yeah, so, and that's what we're all looking for, isn't it? And how does the Pilates come into it? When did you discover that? And you're getting these excellent results in such a short time.
Well, I first qualified, I tried to do something about my rectocele, and I didn't want surgery. And, you know, and I've gone from a grade 2 rectocele to 0. I don't have one now, so yes. But there's a brilliant, and I mean a brilliant urogynecologist who developed Pilates, and it's PF, Pelvic Floor Pilates. He researched, so it's Dr. Bruce Crawford, and he researched, I think, about 120 different movements, all measuring the biomechanics of the movements, he looked at Pilates and he looked at yoga, and he brought all of these 120 different movements down to 10 simple movements, which are and have been proven under clinical assessment effective. So after Brexit and everything went topsy-turvy for me, I thought, oh, well, gosh, I'll pick up my Pilates, why not? Do some exercises. And so I retook my exam and my certificate. And so I'm an advanced Pilates instructor. And now what I'm doing is following then the methods of Dr. Crawford. And it is, and I'd like to say, if anybody's thinking about any kind of exercise regime, they really need to be assessed, because I don't take anybody and everybody on the Pilates. Women with osteoporosis, for instance, they have to be so careful with different movements that they make, and I don't want, you know, to cause any more. They need a proper hands-on physiotherapist or a doctor.
Yeah, I think that's very important. As we were discussing earlier, there's through COVID, a lot of excellent professional trainers have put their stuff on YouTube, but it's not for everyone. It's quite generic, and for women, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, you can do more damage than not doing it all, can't you? But the Pilates, you know, with 10 simple movements, so it's taken into consideration the whole Pilates movement, which I should think everyone is familiar with, and presenting it in a special way for women.
Yeah. And the nice thing about this is that some of the moves are not for everybody. So all you need out of these 10 moves is to choose 2 or 3 and stick to those, and you get the same results. And then we go up in, so level 1, it's all about where you do the moves, you have a hold pattern, you get to peak of engagement, and then you do the pulses. So we're working on the fast twitch and the slow twitch muscles. We're working on plyometrics and isometric contractions as well. So where we've got then grade 1 or level 1, that's a 4-week course. Then we go into level 2, which is more intense, and level 3. So you've got the 3 levels, you've got 10 movements, and all you need is 5 minutes in the evening and 5 minutes in the morning just to do your chosen ones. And the 3 top ones, again from Dr. Crawford's clinical studies, are the lunges, the squats, and again with you having different body shapes and different prolapse on the assessment, I will then be able to say, you know, look, Catherine, don't do the squat this way because XYZ. We're going to modify this now for your body. So you know, you all get to do that movement.
Perfect. So even if women are experiencing now stress incontinence, which happens so much when women are going through perimenopause and beyond, there is hope. They don't have to have surgery. They don't have to have pessaries. There is an alternative. They can do this Pilates and it will bring results.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly with stress incontinence, I've seen results with my ladies in 4 weeks, but again, like everything, they have to be regimented to do those. It's no good coming to me 1 week and then the next week not doing anything. And again, if you start training your muscles, it's important to realize that muscle structure deteriorates within 48 hours.
Wow. Yes.
So, and anybody who's broken a leg or an arm will have seen that when the plaster comes off, you know, their leg has been, well, my leg was like that. So again, it's all the muscle wastage, basically. So if you're doing something, be consistent about it.
Yes. And I should think that's particularly important for women who are aging.
Yes.
Because you just don't realize that all these things are happening to you, and how important the estrogen has been supporting your body all these years. Now that's taken a hike, and you've got to do something different. You still want to be fit and healthy, but you're not realizing that your muscles can deteriorate so quickly just by stopping doing some of those perfectly normal exercises that were keeping you fit.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is that as we get older, we don't want to move as much.
No.
You know, and stress incontinence or incontinence is one of the biggest factors where patients no longer live with their families or at home, and they're put into a care home. And this can be remedied.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't need to be like this. And simply keeping up the movement of the muscles, if we are perimenopausal or menopausal, postmenopausal, we can still activate the muscles and we can keep them healthy. If we don't activate them, they'll die.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yeah. That's oh gosh.
Sorry.
Profound. No, I think that is so positive. We've got to know that I've always said use it or lose it.
Exactly.
But, to that extent, yes. And I hear so much about women going for gynecological tests when they go for a what's it called, a cervical smear test. Yeah. And then because they're of a particular age, even women going through transitioning menopause have sometimes experienced this, where they can't take a swab because of the dryness and muscle structure it's already atrophied and gone into place. And you're telling me now that we can do something about it.
You absolutely. And the other thing, you've got so just at the back of the labia there, you've got the vagina, you've got hormone glands that create the secretions. So if you're not exercising, you're not moving, they just end up drying out. So again, by sort of waking them up, you can actually start the secretions going. I mean, there are some fantastic lubricants as well out there, and natural and organic, which can help immensely. And I do recommend, you know, if you are sort of getting to the point that you're noticing vaginal dryness, then don't be afraid to get some sort of vaginal moisturizer. And again, always discuss this with your women's health physio or doctor.
Yeah, because there's a lot of rubbish out there. Yes, yeah. And that's fantastic. And I think that's a good note to close on. And I think what you would like women to do today is just make sure that they keep their pelvic floor healthy, and they can go. What's the name of your website again?
So it's Pelvic Angel.com, and there's another one, pelvicorganprolapse.org. Both of them. Pelvic Angel is obviously newer, a new one. They're both educational websites. There's a lot of downloads there. There's a lot of questionnaires that they can fill in and take to their doctor or their physio. So, and again, a lot of people, if they don't know what's going on with their body, they don't know the right questions to ask. So I've developed this questionnaire so that takes away that sort of worry for them. They can just say, oh, what about this then? And what about that?
Yes, I think that's excellent, because we all need to know so much more about our bodies, so that we can take control of it, and we don't have to keep going to the doctors and pumping pills. We can find out all the different ways that can keep us healthy and sane. And because aging is, we all feel how it's affecting our bodies, and we all go, oh no, can't possibly deal with that. But you have to face it full on, don't you, and deal with it. So I think go to pelvicangel.com, everybody, and see what's on there, and get an education by looking at pelvicorganprolapse.org and really find out what's going on down there, where we're all so reluctant to talk about, and doctors are reluctant to talk about it as well. So if you've filled in a form, you can take it to your doctor and it will mean something because it's come from another healthcare practitioner. So it's not just somebody who's thought up these things, it's somebody who really knows about the pelvic area and how we can live a much healthier and have a better quality of life. So I'm going to close off now and say thank you once again to Gaynor for joining us today. It's been such an education. Gaynor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Please stay on the line while I close the call. And thank you to everybody who is going to be looking at this video. Please share it with everybody. It is such an important subject. And until the next time, thank you very much.
Thank you.